Welcome to the Earning Freedom Podcast. I am Michael Santos with michaelsantos.com. I'm really pleased to be speaking with my new friend, Billy Gomez. Billy, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. Maintaining.
You are doing great. You know why Billy's doing great, ladies and gentlemen? Billy is doing great because he just finished serving a lengthy term in federal prison, and he's going to talk with us a little bit about his journey growing up in wherever he grew up. He's going to talk to us about his experience in prison, and more importantly, he's going to talk to us about what he learned and what steps he's been taking to make sure that when he comes back to society, he's able to function. We're going to hear about the challenges he's facing. We're going to hear about what he can do better. Billy, welcome to the Earning Freedom Program. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where'd you grow up?
Well, born and raised in New Haven, Connecticut, my whole life. Poor neighborhood. You know, I grew up in the ghetto. Both parents involved in my life. Very proactive in my life. However, you know, addiction, abuse, things that when I was a young kid, there was nothing I could control. I was just a kid growing up in an abnormal environment, thinking that it was normal behavior. So I got caught up.
What did you think was normal behavior? You said you're thinking it was normal behavior. Tell us what you meant by that, Billy.
Well, when you grow up around dysfunction and chaos and you see things going on in the neighborhood that you don't really understand and you're young, it becomes normal to you. You know, when you see somebody get physically assaulted because there was an argument, you start believing that that's the way to resolve a problem, through violence. So as I was growing up as a kid, I thought that violence was the key to solving problems. And that's how I grew up. That's how I was taught. And, you know, I mean, eventually I had to reprogram my thinking because at that point in my life, I was a young kid and it was like I was being brainwashed to believe this way of being was the right way of being, but obviously it wasn't because it led to prison.
Well, you know, there are so many people locked up in prisons across the United States and jails and schools that are on the kids that might be on their way to prison that can really find a lot of value in what you're sharing, Billy. And that's why I like to bring people like you onto the Earning Freedom Mastermind show, because you can tell us about what you learned from that process. I know a lot of young men that were serving time alongside me that told me when they were growing up, they used to look at, you know, OGs and people who were heavily in the gang. Those were their role models. A little bit curious with you. Who were your role models when you were growing up?
The gangsters, the gang members. You know, I was a Latin King, affiliated, was a high-ranking member. I was an enforcer, and those were my role models because at the end of the day, they were the ones that embraced me and showed me love. It was I mean, it sounds weird, but when you grow up in an environment that's harsh and you're looking for guidance, you're looking for a mentor, you're looking for somebody to guide you, you know, and you don't have those outside resources to help you, you find them within your community. And unfortunately, the community is nothing but negativity. So that's what I was drawn to. And those were my mentors. The OGs, the gangsters, the drug dealers.
And tell us how far with those types of influences in your life, Billy, tell us how that influenced your pursuit of school. How far did you go in school?
I quit school at the 9th grade. I mean, my freshman year. As soon as I went to high school, I mean, I think I lasted 2 weeks because education wasn't important. What was important to me was making money, you know, having the latest car, having jewelry, having clothes, and education at that point in my life wasn't going to obtain that for me. That's how I felt at that point in my life. You know, and when you're growing up in the inner city, school's not a priority. You know, the priority is how are we going to put food on the table? How are we going to pay for the rent? How are we going to pay for the light? Because if you don't pay for these things, they're going to turn them off. So, you know, that struggle, you have to, you know, I'm not saying that it's not right. But at that point in my life, that's what I decided to do. I said, you know what? I'd rather be on the street making money because education is not going to pay for the light bill.
You know, I got to tell you, Billy, I understand. I hear that story from a lot of the guests who come on our show. And that's why I think that it's so important to tell your story, because you're the kind of guy who can get through to those young people right now. You're the type of guy who could tell them that they listen to you. They look up to you as an OG, as somebody who's gone through that life cycle, and you've paid the price as a consequence of the decisions that you made. Billy, tell us a little bit about what happened. what transpired in your life after you quit school in the ninth grade? What type of challenges or opportunities did you see, and what was the price that you paid?
The price that I paid for, leaving school and getting involved in selling drugs and carrying guns and living that lifestyle, I caught my first bid when I was 18 years old. I was incarcerated for robbery in the first degree, assault in the first degree.
When you were 18 years old?
When I was 18 years old, I robbed somebody and I shot him, which led to an 8-year prison term. It was a 10-year suspended sentence after 5 years. And I was supposed to do maybe 2.5 years. But when I went into the prison system, that 5 years turned into 8 years because of the things that it was survival of the fittest in prison. At a young age, they sent me to Summers Prison in Connecticut, which was the penitentiary at the time. And, in that environment, an 18-year-old kid, it's either do or die. And at that point in my life, I chose, you know what? I want to live. I want to survive. I don't want to be raped. I don't want to be a victim. So I lashed out and I fought and I fought and I fought. And my 5 years turned into 8. Mm-hmm. That was my first experience in prison.
So let me ask you something. If you look back right now, Billy, you've learned a lot. How old are you now?
I'm 45 right now.
So you're 45. You're more than twice the age that you were when you first went there at 18. You've lived twice as long. And my question is, if you can look back to that 18-year-old, I suppose you'd want to look back to the time you were 14 and avoid it altogether. But if you were to look back at that 18-year-old, somebody just going into that penitentiary, could you have made any decisions that were different that may have resulted in you not getting raped or stabbed, but also not getting an extra 5 years or 3 years tacked onto your sentence?
When you don't have, the reality is, when you're from the inner city and you don't have a mentor, you don't have positive role models. The role models that you do have are all negative. It's difficult to come up out of that lifestyle because all the kids, like, if you look at the kids nowadays, the only thing they glorify and glamorize are the rappers that are iced out with the Cadillacs and the big trucks, making money. That's all they see. That's all they visualize. So that's what they want. And it was
no doubt you saw that. There's somebody who might be listening to this video that is just about to go into the prison system, and they need to hear that message of what you just said. It
right.
cost you an additional 3 years of your life because you made decisions that put you right in the mix, made you had to respond. But there's a difference. I chose not to run with, the Latin Kings or any of the other gangs. I just, I had to do, I had a 45-year sentence to serve. And all I focused on is how I'm going to come home. And that's what I try and share. So the other guys go in, they might be thinking about that. But I need to bring dudes like you on the show because you really authenticate the message. You've paid the price.
When I ended up doing, out of the 8 years, I ended up doing a total of 6.5 years. Now, within that 6.5 year period, the only thing I learned how to do instead of rehabilitate myself was become a more refined criminal, angrier individual. So I came out at the age of 24 and I was even angrier than I was when I went in. So it didn't take me, it took me 11 days, to literally pick up a gun and assault somebody. 11 days after doing 6.5 years. Because
that's a key point. I just want to harp on that a little bit, if it's okay, Billy. I hate to interrupt you, but you say you're bringing so much wisdom here to our audience, because most of the people who are listening to the Earning Freedom podcast, they're locked up. They're in prison. And those guys need to hear how the decisions they're making right now, how those decisions are going to influence them when they get out on the other side of this journey. Also, how it's going to influence them while they're going through these calendar years, waiting for a release date to come, instead of focusing on how they can develop their mind, develop their vocabulary, develop their skill set so that when they come out strong. Instead, they've learned how to live in prison. Right. And it's your duty and your responsibility, Billy, to share that message of what you just did. You came out, and the longer you exposed to prison, the less likely you are to function outside unless you do something about it. I know you're doing something about it right now, but it pains me because I wish I could have communicated to you when you were 18, when you were 20, when you were 22, before you came out at 24. That's what you have the opportunity to do right now, because guys are going to look at you. They're going to see you're hard. they're going to see that you're for real, the real deal. They're going to say, oh, that cat knows what he's talking about. So you said you were out for 11 days.
11 days.
And
I picked
tell
up.
us about the friends you chose when you got out.
I surrounded myself. Like I said, I got out, and not even 11 days. I was already linked up with people that I was locked up with, people that were selling drugs. They were already connected. So when I came home, after 6.5 years, the first thing I asked for was a pistol. I said, all right, let me get a gun, because the anger, the rage, and I felt like the world owed me something, because I paid this price and I felt like they owed me. They didn't owe me anything. But that's how at that time, so much anger and so much pain and the rage, that's what I did. And eventually, everything that I did up to the age of 24 to the age of 30 led to me finally being arrested by the feds. I think, and then my daughter was born while I was incarcerated during that Fed time.
Wait a minute. So you got out. 11 days later, you were back involved in crime,
right,
with a weapon.
right.
And how long was it until you got arrested?
I would do a 1-year bid, a 6-month bid, get out, continue to do what I was doing until finally I was indicted in 2000. And the reason I was indicted is because I was involved with a drug organization in the state of Connecticut. I was an enforcer in that organization. We got indicted. I think it was like 24 of us, 25 of us. I eventually got indicted by the feds. I was on the run for a year. I finally got caught in 2001. And then I was sentenced to 18 years. And that's when that's when I began to do my Fed time.
Tell us a little bit about what mindset you had when you went into the penitentiary with an 18-year sentence to serve.
Well, at that point, I think when my daughter was born 3 months after I was arrested by the feds. And when my daughter was born, I made the decision that I needed to change my life. More for her than for me. At that time, it was like, I need to change my life because it's not about me anymore. And
Billy, hold on a second. I gotta. As you start telling me your secrets, your wisdom, how you changed your life, I always want to elaborate a little bit on that for listeners, because in the course that I teach, it's called the Earning Freedom Mastermind course, and anybody can get a copy of it. They just got to enter their email, and it comes to them free. They'll get my book, Success After Prison. But what I say is what Billy just said. There comes a point in time where you draw a line in the sand, right, and you say, that's it. I'm going to start doing it for somebody else. He said it was his daughter that inspired him to say he's got to change his life. In my case, it happened for me when I was locked up, and I read that story of Socrates that just made me say, that's it. This is where I'm going to change my life. I'm not going to be a criminal anymore. And I had 26 years to serve, but every day I kept my focus on how I was going to come out. Billy, you said you had that same epiphany there as when your daughter was born. I want you to tell us a little bit more after you had that mind shift. Tell us how you were able to use that inspiration to grow through that sentence.
Well, after I was born and I finally saw my daughter, behind a glass, and she's this big, something clicked inside of me. Something clicked inside of me and said, I can't continue to live this life like this. And as soon as I went in, I separated myself from all negative individuals. I didn't want to associate myself with gang members. I didn't want to associate myself with anybody. I was basically walking the yard by myself. A lot of people didn't understand that. A lot of people, they didn't like that, because they were like, yo, what are you doing? You're supposed to be in this car. What are you doing? You can't. But, I had to do it for myself. And there was people that didn't understand. But my whole point of doing that was because I wanted to grow as a man. And I got to know myself. I got to know who I was as a man, being by myself, isolating myself in a room, reading a lot. I mean, reading James Allen, Napoleon Hill, just inspiring books, the Bible, the Quran, anything that was inspiring, that was going to motivate me. And then I found writing. You know, writing was like a form of therapy for me. I read your book. Your book was you indirectly inspired me, and you don't even know it, because my lawyer gave me your book while I was locked up and told me, "Hey, read this." And when I read your book, it inspired me to be like, you know what? I can do this. I can be more than what I am, than what these people got me pegged to be. And so I just continued to educate myself while I was incarcerated. I went to college. I took the correspondence course. I enrolled in Southwest Tennessee Community College. I got certifications for that. I worked Unicor. I was just a model prisoner, man, not because I was the model prisoner, because I wanted to be. I wanted to be somebody different.
Well, I would hold off and say something. I would even say something different than that. You weren't a model prisoner, Bill. You were a model human being. Because at the end of the day, what you said is, first of all, and what I hear in this, and what I would have heard in this when I was young going into the system, is that here's a guy who's telling me the secret to be successful. And it starts with saying, okay, this is where I'm drawing my line in the sand. This is my daughter's born. I'm going to do this for her, number one. Then number two, it's making 100% commitment to that vision, right? For you, it was, I'm going to walk the track by myself. I'm going to run by myself. I'm not going to get involved in any of the drama of the penitentiary. I'm going to focus on how I'm going to get out. That's 100% commitment, and that's not easy to do, particularly a guy like you that looks really hard, a guy that's tatted out, that's got his whole resume tattooed on his body. People are going to ask him. They're going to test him. They're going to say, hey, you raised your hand. You know, you're here. But
Right.
At the end of the day, it takes a man of enormous strength to be able to say, no, I'm doing this for my daughter. So that's a number one. Number two, you made 100% commitment. But number three, you listened to what Billy said.
Exactly.
Billy said he enrolled in school. He got his education. He started focusing on building credentials that didn't matter inside of the penitentiary, but
Right.
mattered to him now. And
Right.
now he's out here. And before I had this conversation with Billy, I'll just tell you, he was reading a letter to me from another close friend of his who was still locked up serving a life sentence. But Billy's heart is trying to help other people come out successfully, and he does everything he possibly can. And that's why he's out here, because he had that vision. He had that moment that said, this is when I cut ties to the criminal underworld. This is when I start building my new life. And that's why I have so much respect for you, Billy. Tell us a little bit more about what challenges you faced while going through 18 years in the high security prison system with this type of challenge in your life.
Well, I mean, you know, when you make a decision to change your life and stay away from prison politics and just do everything in your power to be positive. I mean, people are generally gonna hate on you for whatever reason. You know, they because they see you, they may feel like, oh, he thinks he's better than me because he reads books or whatever the case may be. But I just ignored that stuff, man. I stayed under the radar. I ate by myself. You know, a lot of the best thing that federal prison did for me, and I know it sounds crazy, was I got to know who I was as a man. I really got to know who I am, who Billy is, because before I didn't know who Billy was. You know, I painted a picture of what Billy was supposed to be because of what everybody else thought Billy was. But when I got into myself and I really analyzed my life and everything that I did, I figured out who I was as a man. And despite my obstacles, you know, I'm here today, man, and I'm proud of everything that I've accomplished. You know, I mean, I regret a lot of my past, which I can't change, but I'm proud of my accomplishments and what I'm doing and what I continue to do. You know, I always say,
None of us can change our past. None of us can change our past, Billy, but it's never too early and it's never too late to start building a better life, and you're living proof of that. That's what you've been doing. How long has it been? We're recording this video in August of 2016. How long has it been, Billy, since you've been home?
9 months. I've been home 9 months. It's been wonderful. I got my own apartment, got a truck. I got married. I'm with my daughter. I'm working. and just pushing forward, man, staying positive, proactive. The ultimate goal is for me to, publish a book and tell my life story and try to get these kids, man, these kids out here out of control, trying to get them to understand, man, that this is real. Prison is real. When they take your life, when you go to prison and you lose X amount of years of your life, you're never going to get that back. And it's like you're wasting time. You're wasting time, that precious time, because we can never, like the time that you did, the time that I did, we're never going to get that time back. But all we can do is move forward and try to help these young kids not go through what we went through.
Well, I tell you what, Bill, you did a lot more than go through the fire. You went through it with your dignity intact, and you come back to society successfully, which is an enormous challenge. And the reality is there are a lot of people out here that are living inside of their prison of their mind because they don't know how to break free and overcome struggle. I got to say that your message and your story really gives living, breathing proof that even though a person may have made bad decisions growing up, or even when he's an early adult, you can overcome those. And that's what you're doing right now. In 9 months, you've been able to build yourself a life where you've got a wife, where you're taking care of your daughter, where you're working. Tell us a little bit about what it was like getting into the job market after serving a long time in prison.
Difficult because, I mean, a lot of people don't want to give a felon an opportunity simply because of the criminal background. It always plays a part. They say it doesn't, but it does. So fortunately for me, I had a friend. He owns a construction business. He gave me an opportunity, and I took advantage of the opportunity. I ran with it. And then I'm also a person that I try to find a way to network and try to do things on my own, to become an entrepreneur. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna work. I'm gonna sell stuff on eBay. I'm gonna go get my vendor's license, which I did, and that's what I do, man, to make a living. I work, I sell stuff on eBay, sell stuff on OfferUp. I drive for Lyft, which is a company that's great. They've helped me out a lot. I do nothing but salute them. And so, even when the doors close, we have to find a better way. We have to make our own way. That's how I feel. Because I'm not gonna let nobody stop me from moving forward. Even if they shut 20 doors on me, there's gonna be one that's gonna open up.
You said that you were lucky because you had a friend who had a construction company. My agreement would be that you earned that opportunity because your friend didn't just give you a job. There's a lot of people who ask for jobs. Your friend probably has been observing you over the years. They saw that you had the perseverance and the grit to do the right thing when you were in prison, to focus on success rather than running around just focusing on a prison reputation. And because you made those decisions, your friend said, I'm going to invest in you. I'm going to help you. I'm going to want you to come work with me because of the value that you can provide. You said that Lyft is a great company. I can assure you Lyft is only a great company to you because Lyft sees the value that you provide, because you're always hungry. You're on time to your job. You're responsible. You're respectful to the customers. Right. All of those are the skill sets that people in prison can be preparing for even while they're locked up. But only when somebody follows the leadership that Billy is talking about and chooses to change his life when he's inside, only then can it make a difference and can you create those opportunities. That's what I learned through my journey, and the more successful guys I talk to like Billy, the more this becomes self-evident to me, and that's why I feel so passionately about wanting to share stories like Billy's with the rest of the world. Billy, you said that you wanted to work with young kids and help them see the message. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing to advance that vision that you have for your future.
Well, right now I work with Miss Emily Q. DeGanis from Claymont, Delaware. She's a great sister. She owns a bookstore. It's called Measure Books in Delaware. And we mentor kids. I was mentoring, while I was incarcerated, I was mentoring sexually abused young women. They were young, and we wrote them letters. And that's basically what I do. I try to spend my time. If I can't talk to them on the phone, I write to them. the goal for December is to go to Delaware and visit them. But I gotta wait because, a lot of red tape regarding that. But I really want to go visit them, talk to them, and spend time with them, and just try to help these kids not make the same mistakes that we made, not go through the same walk that we walked, and just do better, be better. Be a better person. Be a better person. I did a lot of evil things in my life that I'm not proud of, things that I can't take back. And I'll never be able to make amends for everything I've done in my life. But I'm going to try. I'm going to try.
Well, you're doing it right now. And I hope that by you sharing your story on the Earning Freedom podcast and video, you'll be able to use this as kind of a testimony that you can share with other people. I'm going to give you a link as soon as we hang out, as soon as we disconnect here, so that you can put it on your resume, put it on your LinkedIn profile, and more people will see just how authentic you are and the enormous value that you bring, because you bring a message that only somebody with your experience could bring. And that is how you're making amends, Billy. That is how you're contributing to society. And we need people like you, particularly in this era when there are so many young people who are running astray from opportunities, when there are so many people going into the prison system or coming out of the prison system that don't really know how to make it. Well, we need people like you. You are the voice that can help bring the change we want to see in the world. And I really want to thank you for sharing it with our audience. We'll come to the end of this episode. I'm going to give you the last word. If there's anything that you'd like to share with our group, please take this opportunity to do so, Billy.
I just want to say that prison is not life. It's harder to go through fire than do what you need to do. Educate yourself. Take the time to read books. Take the time to go to school. Education is free. Read a book, pick it up, learn, grow as a person, as an individual. We're much more than this. We're much more than numbers. So take advantage. If you're locked up, if you're locked up, keep your head up, stay strong, but educate yourself. Stay away from all the negativity, because at the end of the day, it's not going to get you nowhere. And out here, it's a different ball game. You got to be on top of your game. You have to be, because there's no room for failure in our lives. And that's all I want to say, brother. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much, man.
Well, Billy, I want to thank you because you really helped me bring validity. It's a funny thing. Sometimes I go into the penitentiary and dudes look at me and say, that fool was never in prison, man. That fool was never in prison. You didn't look hard enough or whatever. So I need dudes like you to get on this show with me, help me communicate this message. Everything I say, I stand behind. And I'm so grateful to Billy for sharing this story, because he's the real deal. He did a lot of time in prison, and yet he's come back. He's successful, and he's what we hope more people will come out of prison and emulate his success. So thank you very much for sharing your story with the Earning Freedom podcast. We'll be back soon with another inspiring guest. Thanks so much. I'm going to have show notes at michaelsantos.com. Thank you. Bye-bye.